So no, you as a former player and a very decorated player, is there an element of you that is going to be envious on on that Saturday? With your sport, being shown to to America, so to speak, and obviously Las Vegas and the whole thing. What's your emotion going into it? As you're a presenter and a broadcaster.
Mark, I'm really excited for the players, and for the game as well. It's fantastic. There's not just it's not just trying to teach the game to an overseas audience, but it's the publicity and the hype that's created here in Australia as well has been fantastic. I don't, Mark. I sometimes wake up. I haven't played. I retired 22 years ago. It's a problem when you can't remember. 22 years ago. And so what happens, I have dreams sometimes, Mark, through the night that I'm in the dressing room and I'm putting my boots and socks on. Yeah. And it really is like, it's one of those things where you finally wake up and you go, oh, Jesus, thank God I was only dreaming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not envious of the players at all. But, we're going to be over there, which is just, it's next best thing.
Matty, when you look at the, kind of the global picture of this, like obviously, as you know, the NFL has gone overseas and played, matches, as we call them, games in London and Germany, and they're going to South America, Mexico.
Yep.
How do you feel like the American sports fan is going to take to it in Vegas? When they see, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of Aussies that are either making the trip or living over here. They're going to go. In fact, I know of several of them myself already. But for the uninitiated, how do you think people are going to take to it?
Look, Mark, I think for the uninitiated, the first thing that will strike them is, of course, the physicality. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that'll strike them is that impact from the 10 meters or 15 meters the teams are separated apart. It lends itself to a lot of physicality. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's well documented, no helmets and so on and so forth. And the other thing I think it'll really surprise people or strike people will be the pace of the game, mm-hmm. speed of the game, and the fatigue that eventually you'll start to see the game as it starts to get into the second half. The bigger guys will really start to flag and start to have they'll start to tire because there are interchanges you can interchange, but there's only a certain amount. Most people on the field they'll play the full 80 minutes offense and defense. Mm-hmm. So that lends itself to, as the game starts to evolve, you'll see a lot more unpredictability. There'll be a lot of flow and a lot of speed coming into the game, which is which sounds a little strange but almost the more fatigue there is, the faster the game moves.
So, what are some of your other, when you look at these four clubs, what are some of your particularly as you prepare for your broadcasts and whatnot? What you tell me what you think the best storylines are?
Well, one of the great storylines is that there's the fullback, or as you guys have the kick receiver on the special teams. Our fullback is for the Brisbane Broncos, a fellow called Reece Walsh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's a young guy. He played at the Brisbane Broncos and incredibly got unnoticed, and then went and played for the New Zealand Warriors and really built a name for himself. And he's returned to Brisbane. And he was phenomenal last year. Really, he's been a kid with lots of talent. He's quicksilver fast, but he really brought everything together last year. Real good looking kid. He a bit like he's like the Justin Bieber of the NRL. So it's funny. Some of the young guys are coming through at the moment. They've just incredibly charismatic, and mate. I mean, Reece, grand final week, they're saying he went to a fan day and it was like Beatlemania. It was crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, he's a really big story. It's very interesting in the fact that the two sides that are going over there, Mark, that actually have probably, I would say, arguably the biggest rivalry in Australian sport is the Rabbitohs versus the Roosters.
Interesting.
So they're both They're both over the east way of Sydney. They border each other, but traditionally the areas are so different. Yeah, traditionally, and I'm stereotyping here, but the eastern suburbs and the Bondi sort of was, the rich, affluent, and right next door you've got Redfern and South Sydney was really tough, working class, and vastly different area. Now, when these two sides play, Mark, oh dear. Like they nearly lift the roof off the stadium. It's huge crowds. The hate is not manufactured in any way, shape, or form. And it was interesting when they sent the four sides over. I thought that they were going to put that one on for you guys, but I think it's a fixture that they like to keep, to Australia.
Yeah,
because of the size of the crowd they'll get.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I was curious why they didn't pit them together, against each other. But they'd rather that be back home, probably, obviously.
It's like anything in a sport. I think there's certain fixtures that people put a circle around and say that's a special one, and that's when those two sides play, it is really special. A couple of years ago, they played a finals match. I want to use your vernacular, like a playoffs match.
Yeah.
And it was played, it was a sold out stadium, and the place just went, it caused a lot of debate. I grew up in the 70s and followed my sport with my dad playing in the 70s into the 80s. So it was a very violent game. The crowd, the people being sent off left, right, and centre. Me being a child of the 70s, I loved it. But a lot of people were saying this was so bad for the game. But no one asked for a refund.